On riverbanks, 8 different animal species gather around a single capybara, birds landing on its head, turtles climbing on its back, monkeys sitting beside it. Even species that normally conflict with each other exist together by the capybara's side and accept it as a friend. This shouldn't be possible. In nature, animals keep distance from strangers. Different species avoid each other. Social bonds are only formed over long periods and carefully. But the capybara earns every animal's trust without any effort. Dr. Elizabeth Congdon from Bethune-Cookman University describes this as a situation that makes you think about relationships between species. Crocodiles don't make friends. Monkeys only bond with their own troops. But the capybara, it becomes friends with every animal instantly. Birds see it as a resting place. Caimans feel safe beside it. Even predators spend time with it amicably. Tonight, we'll discover how capybaras became nature's only universal friend and which of their characteristics make them the animal every species trusts. If this extraordinary social harmony of capybaras impressed you as much as it did me, like and subscribe. Write in the comments where you're watching from, what time it is there, and what surprised you most about capybaras. You're the reason we keep discovering nature's secrets. Thank you for being here. First, let's note that researchers don't fully agree on the findings we'll be discussing. Some information is not definitive. Now let's explore how capybaras become such good friends. Most of the time, many animals come to the capybara and spend time with it in peace. This pattern is seen in every region where capybaras live. In Brazil's wetlands, researchers observed 3 different bird species comfortably landing on a calmly resting capybara. In some quiet coastal areas, capybaras have been seen peacefully sharing the same space with species that could normally harm them. There's no aggression, no tension whatsoever. Think about it for a moment. In nature, animals generally protect their own territory. They think of themselves. Different species stay away from each other. Social bonds form slowly, carefully, over long periods of time. Trust between species is rare and hard to earn. Yet capybaras earn the trust of every animal effortlessly. Capybaras form friendships with dogs, cats, birds, and even monkeys, and live in harmony with them. Even predators spend time with them peacefully. Also, they're very compassionate. Another example of their universal friendship is adoption. Yes, they adopt. A famous capybara in Arkansas, USA, is known for adopting and mothering all kinds of animals: puppies, kittens, ducklings, fawns. In nature, most interspecies relationships are based on a specific purpose. For example, birds clean parasites off hippos. The bird feeds on these parasites. The hippos get rid of the parasites. These relationships are based on mutual benefit. Everyone gives something, gets something. But with capybaras, it's different. They don't see animals as an opportunity. This is something that goes beyond the boundaries of normal animal behavior. Let's look at what we observe in the field. A small bird species called yellow-headed caracaras are among the species that befriend the capybara. And these birds usually help clean ticks off capybaras in exchange for a free ride on the capybara. But this isn't an exchange of interests like we see in other animals. It's a helping each other situation that happens between friends. A similar closeness is seen in other species. For example, monkeys prefer to calmly climb and sit on resting capybaras. There's no grooming here, no feeding. The monkey just chooses to sit on a capybara when there are dozens of rocks, logs, and ground spaces around. But why choose a living, possibly dangerous animal as a sitting spot? To understand this, let's imagine a small scene. Imagine yourself walking in a forest. You see a comfortable rock in the shade. You also see a comfortable-looking bear in the shade. Which would you choose? The answer is clear. You'd choose the rock. Your instincts scream at you to stay away from the unpredictable animal. Yet we're watching turtles deliberately choose capybaras over rocks. Birds choose capybara backs over nearby branches. Small mammals lean against capybaras instead of tree trunks. So they're intentionally choosing the capybara over the safer option. The friendliness of capybaras isn't limited to just the forest. Pet capybaras are the same way. Many capybara owners say they enjoy being petted, being carried. Capybaras form strong bonds with their owners, recognize them, and love their owners. Now let's look at the scientific explanation for this. Research on capybara social behavior reveals a fascinating truth about their brain chemistry. Their stress responses are different from other rodents. Most rodents show elevated heart rates and defensive postures in the presence of other species. And capybaras? Even when their surroundings are full of potential threats, their baseline stress levels remain surprisingly stable. You might think this is stupidity or lack of awareness, but it's not. Capybaras recognize predators. When they see danger, they understand. Field observations confirm they can distinguish between threatening and non-threatening situations. They run when they see jaguars. They dive into water when harpy eagles appear. So their threat perception is flawless, but their instincts tell them that most of the animals around them aren't actually a threat. Moreover, they communicate this calm assessment to all living things around them. Think about how we can notice when the atmosphere of an environment changes. When someone enters, we can sometimes understand their mood without even speaking. If they're stressed, we immediately tense up. Capybaras do the opposite. They bring a calm atmosphere to their environment, and this calmness slowly spreads around. The really interesting point here is this. This closeness isn't one-sided. Capybaras don't just tolerate other animals, they truly accept them. Observations show that a capybara group in Argentina regularly shares the same feeding area with at least 12 different species. This isn't just sharing space, it's actually making room when new animals approach. This behavior of capybaras is clearly seen in the field. A young capybara is resting by the water when a duck family approaches, and the young capybara changes its position, creating a small space between itself and the water's edge. The ducks use exactly that space to reach the water. This wasn't a coincidence. The capybara saw them coming and made room for them. Alongside these calm behaviors of capybaras, they also have interesting physical characteristics. In size, they're much larger than most rodents. They can reach up to 145 pounds and 4 feet in length. This size can give them a sense of security. Most animals don't see them as prey. They're wary, but they're also not so big that they'd cause small animals to feel threatened. Let's compare this with another gentle giant, elephants. Small birds and monkeys approach elephants but keep a respectful distance. They're aware of the elephant's power, the harm it could cause unintentionally. With capybaras, there's no caution. Birds comfortably perch on the capybara's head, as if landing on a fence post. We can't ignore the fact that they're herbivorous. Because they're herbivores, they're not hunters, they don't hunt any animals, and therefore pose no threat to other species. They only sometimes chase away and leave uninvited guests entering their space, nothing else. Because they have no predatory instinct in them, they don't even give off small signs that could cause other animals to fear. They smell like grass and water, not like meat. But there are many herbivores that other animals stay away from. Hippos are also herbivores, but they fiercely protect their territories. African buffalo are also herbivores and are known as dangerous animals. So being a plant eater doesn't automatically mean universal friendship. There's something else here. Capybaras truly pose no threat to those around them. Body language provides some clues. Capybaras move slowly and in a controlled manner. They don't move suddenly. They don't display aggressive postures. That's why most animals leave them alone. Even in social relationships among their own species, conflict is very rare. Although a hierarchy exists, it's expressed calmly through posture, positioning, and gentle sounds, not physical fights. This peaceful internal structure may show other animals that capybaras live in a different social order. In an environment where many species constantly assess threats, capybaras act like a calm and neutral presence. Yet the behavior of being used almost like a chair by other animals is still surprising. We can understand relationships based on mutual benefit. We can also understand why a calm and harmless animal attracts the interest of other species. But why do animals specifically use capybaras like chairs? Why do they climb on them? The answer may lie hidden in capybaras' recognition and memory abilities. They can recognize individual friends or family members through scent. They greet returning family members with special greeting behaviors, like nose-to-nose contact. This recognition extends beyond their own species. Some animals that frequently encounter capybaras in nature may be remembered as individuals. In Japan, at some hot spring facilities where capybaras live, staff have said that certain capybaras prefer certain human visitors. One capybara would approach an elderly woman who came weekly while ignoring other visitors who came daily. This behavior wasn't food-focused. The woman never fed it. Her presence felt familiar and safe to the capybara. If capybaras can form such bonds with humans, it's likely they form similar bonds with animals that regularly visit in wild settings. The capybara probably recognizes and remembers the bird that often perches on it and welcomes it on subsequent visits. In zoos and wildlife parks, capybaras are often kept together with other animals like monkeys and birds. Over time, this leads to them getting to know each other better. The bird learns this capybara is safe. The capybara learns this bird is harmless. Trust is built. But there's something else. Something we observe but struggle to measure. When you watch capybaras' interactions with other animals, you notice their calm posture seems like a conscious choice. They don't just accept the bird landing on their head. They seem to be offering a service. They seem to be knowingly being a chair. A research team studied a capybara group living near a popular bird flock for a long time. In the midday heat, when birds needed rest points, they noticed capybaras would sit in shaded areas and remain motionless for long periods. When the birds left, capybaras would return to their normal activities. Was this learned behavior? Had capybaras understood that staying still attracts birds and the bird's presence provides them with pest control? Or was this just us interpreting their laziness? Capybaras rest a lot anyway, so this was the capybara's signal to the birds to come and rest. So is this universal friendship truly universal? Are there animals that reject capybaras? Are there species that show them aggression beyond normal hunting? The answer reveals the limits of capybara charm. The animals that hunt them are limited jaguars, anacondas, and harpy eagles. Territorial male caimans sometimes chase capybaras away from sunbathing areas, not to eat, only to protect territory. Some bird species completely ignore capybaras. They show neither friendship nor hostility. And of course, active predators like jaguars see capybaras as food, not friends. But even these exceptions are interesting. Caimans chase capybaras from specific spots, not the entire territory, so they set boundaries but don't hunt. The jaguar-capybara dynamic is different. Jaguars are among the species that can hunt capybaras. However, in areas where both species are abundant, they usually share the same water sources with very little conflict. There's a predator-prey relationship, but 99% of the time it doesn't prevent them from living together peacefully. Maybe that's the real answer. Capybaras have found a behavioral balance point that minimizes conflict with almost every species they encounter. Not through strength or speed, they achieve this by being predictable and, most importantly, by showing no real aggression toward other living things. The result reveals an admirable picture. In a natural world defined by competition, territory, and struggle for survival, capybaras have become nature's neutral zone, living furniture that every species trusts. The animal that makes even predators stop and think twice. But this universal acceptance comes with a hidden cost. When you're friends with everyone, where do you draw your line of defense? When you've taught every living thing around you that you're harmless, how do you protect yourself? The answer to this question lies hidden in capybaras' daily lives. So how does a capybara's day actually pass? What's the routine behind being called the world's calmest animal? What exactly do they think when lying by the water, napping under the sun, or sleeping on a turtle's back? Chapter 2. The sun rises over the wetlands. While most animals rush into motion to start their day, capybaras remain completely still. Eyes half closed, bodies relaxed. They're awake, aware of what's happening around them, but there's no rush. This is a capybara morning, just a silent existence by the water, waiting for the world to warm up. Capybaras are generally animals most active at twilight. This behavior helps protect them from the day's heat and avoid some predators. We've watched countless animals' mornings, birds starting to sing, monkeys chattering in trees, deer cautiously advancing to feeding areas. Every species has its ritual for starting the day, its method of greeting the day. And capybaras? They meet the day with a calm and indifferent ease. Capybaras spend most of their time in the dense vegetation around rivers, lakes, and wetlands. They do most of their feeding in the afternoons and occasionally at night. You might wonder if they're lazy because they tend to nap in the mornings. You might think this posture is an energy-saving method required by their herbivorous diet. The truth is much different. Capybaras have discovered something most animals never learn. That rushing doesn't help anything, that the pastures will still be there 2 hours later. And that predators are less active in the midday heat anyway. Think about your own mornings. That tension that fills you the moment the alarm goes off, the to-do list that floods your mind in an instant. Capybaras don't wake up with such tension. They open their eyes, check that the group is safe, and if everything's calm, they return to resting. Toward mid-morning, when the sun rises higher, we see the first real movement. Not frantic activity, just a slow, controlled repositioning. A capybara lying on the shore rolls a bit, and moves to shallower water. Another shifts from sun to shade. These movements aren't random. Each adjustment serves a specific purpose, maintaining ideal body temperature without expending energy. Capybaras are the world's most chill animal. They're not lazy like sloths, but they maintain a chill lifestyle. They rest 12 hours a day, and they take short naps throughout the day. During these naps, other capybaras in the herd keep watch, not tense or overly alert, just aware. You can see it in their posture. Eyes scan the surroundings, ears track sounds, but bodies are loose, muscles relaxed. This is the genius aspect of capybara social life. Because they take turns observing danger, no individual needs to stay constantly alert. If 6 group members are checking different directions, you can truly rest. Toward noon, something remarkable happens. The entire group seems to enter a deep rest state all at once. Temperature peaks, harsh sun makes movement difficult for both capybaras and predators. So life pauses for a while, the wetlands quiet down, and capybaras fully adapt to this peaceful pause. We've observed capybara groups remaining almost completely motionless for 3 to 4 hours during these hot hours. Barely noticeable breathing movements, occasional ear flicks to ward off flies. Beyond that, there was perfect stillness. This long rest period isn't sleep in the sense we understand it. Their brains remain active and continue processing environmental information. Slight sounds create subtle responses. When a bird makes an alarm call, ears perk up. An unusual splashing sound causes heads to lift, eyes to scan. But if nothing requires action, they immediately return to resting state. What separates this from other animals is this. Most species see rest as recovery time. You sleep because you're tired. You stop because you've depleted available energy. With capybaras, it's conscious. They're not tired. They just choose not to be active. A slow awakening begins in the afternoon, not suddenly. First, one stands, stretches, walks with heavy steps toward deeper water. 5 minutes later, another follows, then another. The group reassembles with no apparent signal or coordination. Now let's talk about their feeding. Feeding takes an important place in the capybara's daily routine. Like any animal, they spend about 50% of daylight grazing and searching for food. And this is natural because capybaras must consume large amounts of plants daily to meet their energy needs. But feeding time also has its own unique rhythm. Capybaras don't rush to eat. They move slowly between pastures, select specific plants, chew thoroughly. Due to their large body size, they need large amounts of food. An adult capybara consumes 6 to 8 pounds of plants per day, but when you watch them, you could never guess this. They never hurry. There's no competition within the group, just calm, methodical grazing. You might think this slow feeding style makes them vulnerable because they graze 6 to 7 hours a day. You might also think predators could easily target such relaxed, distracted animals. But when danger approaches, the picture changes. The transformation in these calm animals is silent but extremely swift. Capybaras that were just grazing slowly head toward water within seconds and disappear. They can hold their breath for up to 5 minutes, and when necessary, can run at surprising speed. This reveals the truth about the capybara lifestyle. Relaxation isn't inability to move quickly, it's a choice. They can spring into action when survival requires it, but most of the time they're aware there's no need for sudden reaction. Capybaras don't have a strict bedtime like humans. Their activity decreases toward sunset. Evening hours are their most active time. As temperature drops and light fades, capybaras really come alive. Social interactions increase. Play behaviors emerge among young members. Adults groom. And these interactions strengthen social bonds within the group. This twilight period lasts about 2 hours and contains more energy than the entire rest of the day. But even here, even during peak activity, capybaras maintain their characteristic calmness. Playful wrestling never turns into real conflict. They don't mind most things. Grooming sessions happen without tension. Order within the group is maintained through quiet and careful repositioning rather than aggressive behavior. We've examined how this twilight order emerged. Less light reduces predators' visual efficiency. Cooling air makes movement easier. Competition with diurnal species also decreases logical explanations, but it doesn't fully explain how capybaras have so masterfully embraced doing nothing in daylight. Night routine varies by region and predator pressure. In areas with heavy hunters, capybaras become fully nocturnal and are active only in darkness. In contrast, in protected areas, nights consist of short and limited activity periods broken by rest intervals. An hour of grazing, 2 hours of rest, a short swim, then rest again. While capybaras lie on flat ground to rest, they prefer the shade under trees, not just to protect from the heat, to observe the life above from these points. Because some animals, especially monkeys, build complex nests to sleep in trees at night. They carefully fold branches, arrange leaves, create a perfect shelter in the heights. On our next journey, we'll discover how monkeys skillfully build these tree nests. But now, let's return to capybaras. Sleep itself is interesting. Capybaras rarely enter deep and long sleep periods like humans. Instead, they adopt what researchers call polyphasic sleep, multiple short rest periods totaling 12 to 16 hours per day. Each nap can last from a few minutes to an hour. These rests allow their bodies to fully recover after an intense day of grazing. This sleep pattern carries perfect logic for their lifestyle. Long and deep sleep leaves you vulnerable. Short naps keep you sensitive to environmental changes. You can wake up instantly if needed, but still get adequate rest within 24 hours. The sleep positions themselves show capybara philosophy. They don't curl up defensively. They don't hide in dens. Most of the time they sleep half submerged in water, out in the open, visible to any creature passing by. This requires either extraordinary stupidity or extraordinary confidence. Looking at their success as a species, we can eliminate stupidity. What we're witnessing is the product of a very long adaptation process. Capybara's daily life is shaped not for maximum efficiency, but for minimum stress level. They've learned that being constantly alert isn't the only way to survive, that relaxation and safety can coexist, and that calmness isn't a weakness, but a conscious strategy. Relationships within the group ensure this calm way of life runs smoothly. Herd size varies seasonally. In rainy season, it can drop to as few as 10 animals with abundant resources, while in dry season, when resources concentrate, it can exceed 100. Capybaras need interaction with herd members to reduce stress and create environmental security. But regardless of group size, the basic rhythm doesn't change. Rest when possible. Don't mind everything. Be chill. Move when necessary. Never waste energy on unnecessary action. Compare this with most mammals. Many are in constant motion, Territory patrols, resource protection, hunting, capybaras minimize all of this. They have territories, but their enforcement is subtle. They have a social hierarchy, but changes happen calmly and unobtrusively. They compete for mates, but even mating season doesn't reach the level of conflict we see in most species. And this isn't a coincidence. Every detail is like part of a conscious creation. The capybara's body structure, social order, and daily routine all point to the same conclusion. Peace is more efficient than conflict. Calmness is more sustainable than stress. And relaxation isn't laziness, it's an advanced way of using energy consciously and balanced. But this calmness doesn't happen on its own. In a community where 20, 30, sometimes 40 individuals live side by side, conflict seems inevitable. So how do capybaras achieve this calmness? The answer lies in sounds most of us haven't heard and signals we haven't seen. An invisible architecture, a system that constantly works but never makes noise. Chapter 3. The water's edge holds 20 capybaras. They're not doing much, just existing together in loose formation. But if you watch long enough, patterns emerge, subtle shifts in position, small vocalizations exchanged, a language we're only beginning to understand. Capybara social structure operates on principles that seem simple from the outside, but reveal remarkable complexity when examined closely. A typical group contains 10 to 20 individuals, though dry season concentrations can push numbers past 100. Within each group, roles exist, hierarchies form. But the way capybaras establish and maintain these structures differs fundamentally from most social mammals. Think about how wolves organize: clear alpha dominance, constant reinforcement through physical displays. Or consider baboons, where social rank determines everything from feeding order to mating access. Capybaras build something different, something quieter. We might call it democracy by consensus, except that term implies voting and discussion. Capybaras simply understand their place without needing to fight about it. The dominant male in a capybara group is easy to identify if you know what to look for. He's typically the largest, the one with the most prominent scent gland on his snout. This dark, hairless patch called the murillo marks him as mature and socially significant. But here's what makes capybara hierarchy interesting. The dominant male doesn't rule through intimidation. He leads through presence. Subordinate males exist within the group. Younger animals, smaller individuals, those still building their social standing. In most mammal societies, these subordinates face constant harassment from dominants, aggressive displays, exclusion from resources, sometimes outright exile. Capybara dominants? They mostly just occupy the best spaces and let subordinates work around them. Watch how a subordinate male approaches a resting dominant. He doesn't cower or display submission signals. He simply adjusts his path slightly, giving the larger animal space. The dominant doesn't acknowledge this courtesy. No posturing, no enforcement. The subordinate understood the social map and navigated it smoothly. That's how capybara hierarchy functions most of the time. Conflict does occur. Males competing for breeding access sometimes face off. But even these confrontations lack the intensity we see in other species. Two males might stand nose to nose assessing each other, brief pushing, maybe some vocalization. Then one walks away and that's the end of it. No prolonged battles, no injury, just quick assessment and acceptance of outcome. Female social dynamics operate differently. Females form the stable core of capybara groups. They're often related, sisters or mothers and daughters, creating multi-generational family unit. These relationships provide group continuity. Males may come and go, but female lineages persist. Communication within these groups happens constantly, but you have to pay attention to catch it. Capybaras possess 7 distinct vocalization types, each serving specific social functions. The most common sound you'll hear is a gentle click. This low-frequency noise travels well through vegetation and water, perfect for maintaining contact when group members spread out during feeding. The clicking happens almost unconsciously. A capybara moves away from the group. Click. Another responds, click. It's location broadcasting, a way of saying "I'm here" without drawing predator attention. If you listen to a feeding group, you'll hear these clicks forming a background rhythm, not constant chatter, just periodic check-ins that keep everyone aware of group position. Whistles serve different purposes. High-pitched and carrying, whistles function as distance calls. A capybara, separated from its group, will whistle repeatedly until reunited. This isn't panic. The tone stays even, regular. It's simply a homing signal. Young animals use whistles most frequently, staying in acoustic contact with mothers, even when visual connection breaks. Adult capybaras respond to juvenile whistles regardless of relation. Research has shown that any adult hearing a lost pup's whistle will orient toward the sound. Females particularly show strong response, looking toward the source for extended periods. This collective attention to young creates a safety net where every adult participates in watching over all group offspring. Purring occurs during contentment. You'll hear it most often during social grooming sessions. 2 capybaras rest side by side. One begins nibbling at the other's fur, removing parasites and debris. The recipient starts purring, a low, steady sound similar to a cat's. This acoustic feedback tells the groomer their efforts are appreciated. It strengthens bonds without requiring complex interaction. Think about what purring represents. It's voluntary advertisement of vulnerability. The purring animal is announcing, "I'm relaxed enough in your presence to make noise." That could attract attention. In a world full of threats, that's significant trust, and capybaras exchange that trust freely within their groups. Barks mean danger. Sharp, loud, unmistakable. One capybara detects a potential threat and barks. The entire group responds instantly, not with panic, but with coordinated action. Animals near water enter it immediately. Those further away move toward the nearest water source. The whole group relocates in seconds, and then they wait, submerged except for eyes, ears, and nostrils, silent, patient. What's remarkable is how the warning system operates without designated sentinels. Any group member might spot danger first and bark. Everyone trusts that bark equally. There's no verification process, no checking if the warner holds sufficient rank to issue alerts. Someone saw something concerning, that's enough. The group moves. This distributed vigilant system explains why capybaras can rest so completely during safe periods. You don't need constant personal alertness when 20 sets of eyes and ears cover the perimeter. You can genuinely relax, knowing that the collective awareness will catch threats before they reach you. Grunts express mild irritation or acknowledgement. A capybara moving past another might grunt softly, basically saying, Excuse me? Another might grunt back, the capybara equivalent of no problem. These small acoustic exchanges grease social interactions, preventing minor irritations from escalating. Tooth chattering represents the closest capybaras come to aggressive vocalization. It's exactly what it sounds like, rapid clicking of teeth together. Males sometimes chatter at each other during breeding season competition, but even this supposedly aggressive sound lacks real threat. It's more warning than promise. I'm annoyed, and you should be aware of that. The restrained nature of capybara conflict makes sense when you consider their evolutionary context. They're large herbivores without significant defensive weapons, no horns, no sharp hooves. Fighting ability is limited. So natural selection favored individuals who avoided fights rather than seeking them. The result is a species remarkably skilled at diffusing tension before it explodes. Body language complements vocalizations. A capybara wanting to communicate submission or non-aggression simply turns its head aside. That's it. No elaborate bowing, no exposing vulnerable areas. Just a head turn that says, "I'm not challenging you." The other animal accepts this and both continue with their day. Scent marking provides another communication layer, particularly for males. That prominent Murillo gland secretes oily substance that males rub on vegetation. This chemical signature broadcasts information about identity, status, and reproductive condition. Dominant males mark more frequently than subordinates, creating scent maps that reinforce social structure. But here's the interesting part. These scent marks don't claim territory in the traditional sense. Capybara territories overlap extensively. Multiple groups use the same areas at different times. The scent marks function more like signatures in a guest book. They tell you who was here and when, but they don't necessarily exclude you from visiting. Group cohesion depends on these communication systems working smoothly. 20 individuals moving through dense wetland vegetation need constant coordination. The clicks, whistles, and purrs create an acoustic net that holds the group together even when visual contact breaks. You could almost navigate by sound alone, following your group through marsh grass by tracking their vocalizations. Young capybaras learn this communication system through immersion. From birth, they're surrounded by adult vocalizations. Within hours, pups produce basic calls. Over weeks and months, their vocal repertoire expands as they practice different sounds and learn appropriate contexts. No formal teaching occurs, just observation and gradual participation in the social soundscape. This learned component means vocal patterns can vary between populations. Groups in different regions develop slight dialect differences in their clicks and whistles. Nothing so dramatic as different languages, just subtle variations in timing and pitch. These local accents might help capybaras identify whether approaching animals belong to their immediate social circle or come from unfamiliar groups. The question remains, why invest in such complex social systems? Solitary life would eliminate need for all this communication. But capybaras long ago committed to group living, and that commitment required sophisticated tools for coordination. The vocalizations, body language, and scent marking evolved because they made group life work better. They reduced conflict, increased collective vigilance, and allowed individuals to specialize in different tasks. We see the results in how smoothly capybara groups function. Minimal fighting, respond coordinated essays to threats. cooperative care of young, efficient resource use without constant competition. These achievements rest on communication systems that let 20 individuals act as one organism when circumstances require it, while maintaining individual autonomy during calm periods. The balance between group coherence and individual freedom defines capybara social life. They're neither rigidly hierarchical like wolves nor loosely associated like deer. They've found a middle path where structure exists but remains flexible, where leadership happens without domination, where communication replaces coercion. And at the water's edge, those 20 capybaras continue their quiet conversation. Clicks exchanged, positions adjusted, the social machinery running so smoothly that it becomes invisible. Only through patient observation do we glimpse the architecture beneath. The careful construction of relationships that makes their peaceful coexistence possible. Chapter 4. Dawn arrives quietly at the water's edge. The capybara group remains motionless in the half-light. Eyes closed, breathing slow. Around them, the wetlands wake gradually, birdsong building in layers, but the capybaras don't stir yet. They're waiting for something. An internal signal that operates independent of external cues. Around 6 in the morning, the first capybara begins its ritual. The animal sits back on its haunches, stretches one hind leg outward, and bends its head downward. The movement is practiced, familiar, performed countless times before. What happens next might seem strange to us, but for the capybara, it's as natural as breathing. This is secotrophy, the morning reclamation of nutrients, a second pass at digestion that transforms grass into survival. We need to understand what's happening inside the capybara body to appreciate why this morning behavior matters so deeply. Think about eating a salad. You chew the lettuce. Your stomach acids break it down. Your small intestine absorbs what it can. Then the remains move through your colon and exit. One-way journey. Single opportunity to extract nutrients. That's how most digestion works for most animals. Capybaras found a different path. Their digestive tract centers on an enormous structure called the cecum. This blind pouch connects the small and large intestines, and in capybaras it comprises 74% of their entire gastrointestinal system. Imagine your digestive tract being 3/4 devoted to one specialized chamber. That's the capybara design. Inside this cecum, an entire ecosystem thrives, billions of bacteria, protozoa, fungi, all working together to accomplish what the capybara's own enzymes cannot, breaking down cellulose. Plant cell walls are remarkably tough, constructed from chains of sugar molecules bonded in configurations that resist simple digestion. Most mammals can't touch this energy source. The nutrients are there, locked inside structural barriers that stomach acid can't penetrate. But capybara gut bacteria possess the specialized enzymes needed. They ferment the plant material, snapping those tough bonds, releasing the stored energy. The process takes time, hours of bacterial work in the warm, slightly acidic environment of the cecum. The bacteria multiply, consuming cellulose, producing volatile fatty acids as waste products. Here's the beautiful part. Those bacterial waste products are capybara fuel. The fatty acids get absorbed through the cecum wall, providing calories. The bacteria themselves, having multiplied extensively during fermentation, become a protein source. The capybara didn't just eat grass, it cultivated a bacterial crop inside its own body, then harvested that crop. Except there's a problem. Geography. The cecum sits at the junction of small and large intestine. Once material moves past this point into the colon, absorption opportunities decline dramatically. The colon's job is water reclamation and waste consolidation, not nutrient extraction. So all those bacterial cells, all that microbial protein, all the B vitamins synthesized during fermentation, they're about to be lost, unless the capybara reclaims them, which is exactly what happens during the morning ritual. The evening feeding session sends grass through the stomach and small intestine, arriving in the cecum by nightfall. Fermentation proceeds through the dark hours. Bacteria multiply, cellulose breaks down. By dawn, the cecum contents are rich with microbial life and the nutrients it produced. But instead of simply passing this material into the colon and out of the body, the capybara's digestive system does something remarkable. Special muscular movements in the colon create a separation mechanism. Regular waste moves in one direction, becoming the hard, oval pellets we associate with herbivore droppings. But the nutrient-rich cecal contents get diverted, forming softer, darker pellets with completely different properties. Higher protein content, more vitamins, dense bacterial populations still alive and active. This is what researchers call cecotropes. These special pellets emerge in the early morning, roughly 10 to 12 hours after the previous evening's meal. The timing is precise, controlled by the digestive system's internal rhythm. And capybaras recognize the difference. They don't consume their regular waste pellets. Those get left where they fall, but cecotropes, those get eaten immediately, often before they even touch the ground. The morning scene makes sense now. That capybara bent toward its own body isn't performing some bizarre behavior. It's completing a feeding cycle, taking the output of its internal fermentation system and sending it through for a second pass. The cecotropes go back down the throat, into the stomach, through the small intestine, where their nutrients can finally be absorbed. The bacterial proteins get broken down by stomach acid and digestive enzymes, releasing amino acids. The vitamins get captured, the remaining energy gets extracted. This second pass efficiency means capybaras extract approximately twice the nutrients from grass compared to single pass herbivores. They can survive on lower quality forage. They need less total food intake. Their digestive strategy lets them thrive in environments where other grazers struggle, all because they figured out how to use their food twice. The behavior spreads through the group on that quiet morning. One animal begins. 5 minutes later, another follows, then another. There's no coordination, no signal. Each individual operates on its own internal schedule, dictated by when it last ate and how long fermentation required. But the effect is synchronized, enough that morning observers see multiple capybaras engaged in the ritual simultaneously. Young capybaras learn this behavior through observation and practice. Pups around 3 weeks old begin attempting cecotrophy, imitating the movements they see adults performing. Early efforts are clumsy, but within days the behavior becomes smooth and automatic. No teaching occurs. The young simply watch, try, and refine through repetition until the ritual becomes second nature. The bacterial populations in young capybara guts need establishment. They're not born with the full complement of cellulose-degrading microbes. Some colonization happens naturally, microbes entering through environmental contact. But consuming adult cecotropes accelerates the process. The young animal ingests not just nutrients, but living bacterial cultures, directly inoculating its own cecum with the necessary species. It's probiotic supplementation, capybara style. During dry season, when grass quality declines and food becomes scarce, cecotrophy increases in frequency. Researchers have documented up to 3 cecotrophy sessions per hour during morning rest periods in drought conditions. The capybaras extract every possible calorie from degraded forage, their 2-pass system making survival possible when single-pass herbivores face starvation. Wet season brings abundance, fresh grass everywhere, high nutrient content, less need for maximal extraction efficiency. Morning cecotrophy still occurs, but capybaras might interrupt the ritual to graze if particularly lush grass is available nearby. The behavior remains essential but becomes less dominant in the daily routine. The digestive system adjusts to resource availability. Compare this to how ruminants handle the same challenge. Cows evolved multi-chambered stomachs. They chew, swallow, let bacteria ferment the material in the rumen, then regurgitate it for more chewing. That's rumination, the cud chewing we associate with cattle. It accomplishes similar goals: bacterial fermentation and multiple passes at nutrient extraction, but it requires complex stomach anatomy and constant chewing throughout the day. Capybaras took a different evolutionary path: simpler stomach, single-chambered, but enlarged cecum, and the behavioral adaptation of cecotrophy. Different anatomy, different technique, equivalent result. Both approaches extract maximum nutrition from plant material. Both depend on bacterial partners. The capybara version just happens to require eating what looks like waste but isn't. The cecum environment carefully maintains conditions that bacterial fermenters need. The pH hovers around 6, slightly acidic, perfect for cellulose-breaking species while limiting other bacterial types. Temperature stays constant. Nutrient flow provides steady food supply. In return, the bacterial community provides services the capybara cannot perform alone. This relationship represents true symbiosis. The bacteria get safe housing and abundant food. The capybara gets access to energy sources it couldn't otherwise use. Neither partner can complete the digestive process alone. Together, they transform grass into fuel. Evolution built cooperation into the capybara digestive tract. When antibiotics disrupt this bacterial community, capybara health crashes rapidly. The animals lose their ability to digest plant matter effectively. Weight drops, energy declines. They're still eating, but the food passes through without releasing its stored nutrition. The bacterial partners are essential, not optional. Without them, grass becomes useless roughage rather than sustenance. The morning ritual continues through early hours. By 8 or 9, most cecotrophy sessions have concluded. Cecal contents have been processed and reclaimed. The group begins transitioning into daytime activities, though actual feeding won't peak until afternoon. The morning accomplished its purpose: nutritional rescue from the previous day's grazing. There's something almost meditative about watching this behavior, the quiet repetition, the calm acceptance. These animals don't rush through their digestive strategy. They simply perform what their bodies require, at the time their systems dictate, with complete lack of self-consciousness. Its biological necessity transformed into morning routine, we might recoil at the idea, carrying human concepts of cleanliness and waste. But capybaras aren't dealing with waste, they're harvesting an internal crop. Those secotropes are no more waste than honey is bee vomit. Both are processed products transformed by living organisms into concentrated nutrition. Both serve survival. Both emerge from systems that turn poor quality input into high value output. The strategy works. Capybaras thrive across South America, from tropical wetlands to temperate grasslands. Their populations remain stable. Their range extends across diverse habitats. Much of that success traces back to the morning ritual, that quiet reclamation of nutrients that lets them survive on grass that would starve other animals. As morning light strengthens and the group begins to stir toward daytime activities, the evidence of their digestive strategy becomes clear. Regular waste pellets scatter across the ground where they fell, but secotropes gone, consumed, reprocessed, every available nutrient extracted, nothing wasted. The capybara digestive system running at peak efficiency, sustained by the morning ritual that turns grass into life. Chapter 5. A capybara sits at the water's edge, the same spot it occupied yesterday, and the day before, and every morning for the past 3 weeks. There's nothing special about this location, no shade, no particular feature, just one spot among hundreds along this shoreline. Yet the capybara returns here each dawn, remembering, choosing, making a decision we can barely recognize as intelligence. We often miss capybara cognition because it unfolds so slowly. No rapid problem solving, no dramatic displays of cleverness, just quiet competence spread across days and weeks. A capybara learns the way water shapes stone, gradually, persistently, building knowledge through repetition until patterns become instinct. Consider how they navigate their territories. A capybara group occupies roughly 25 acres of wetland. Within that space, they know every grazing patch, every water source, every safe resting spot. This knowledge doesn't come from maps or instructions, it accumulates through daily movement, each journey adding details to an internal representation of home. Researchers placed food in different locations across a capybara territory, changed positions daily, random patterns. After several weeks, they established a regular schedule. Food appeared in location A on mornings, location B in afternoons, different distances, different directions. The capybaras adjusted their movements accordingly, not immediately, not with obvious recognition, but over time. They began arriving at the correct locations at the correct times. That adjustment happened without anyone teaching them. No dominant animal showed subordinates where food would be. Each individual figured it out independently. Then the group's collective movement reflected everyone's private understanding. Quiet intelligence multiplied across 20 minds. Memory serves them constantly. A capybara remembers which grass patches recovered after previous grazing, returns to them when growth reaches optimal height, avoids areas that didn't regenerate well. This botanical knowledge accumulates over seasons. The animal isn't consciously thinking about grass growth patterns. It simply remembers which choices produced good results and repeats those choices. Water sources shift with seasons. Heavy rains create temporary pools. Drought shrinks permanent ponds. Capybaras track these changes through direct observation. An animal visiting a pool that's now dried up doesn't panic or search randomly. It moves to the next known water source. And if that one's gone too, it continues to the third option. The mental list exists. The hierarchy of preferences remains accessible. Think about keeping a list of your 3 favorite restaurants. Now imagine doing it without language, without writing, just pure spatial memory of locations and quality assessments. That's roughly what capybaras maintain for water sources and food patches and safe resting spots. Multiple overlapping maps stored quietly in their minds. Social memory matters just as much. A capybara knows every member of its group, not just visual recognition. It remembers behavioral patterns, which individuals are reliably calm, which ones occasionally get irritable during feeding. These assessments shape social decisions. An animal choosing where to rest positions itself near the most compatible group members, not through conscious strategy, through accumulated experience of which proximities feel comfortable. Young capybaras entering new groups face a learning period. They don't automatically know the local social dynamics, but watch them over several weeks. They stop approaching certain animals who consistently reject contact. They increase time near others who accept them. The learning happens through trial and observation, each interaction adding information, each rejection teaching a small lesson about group structure. Recognition extends beyond group members. Capybaras living near human settlements learn to distinguish individual people. Researchers working with habituated animals noticed certain capybaras would approach specific team members while avoiding others, not based on who fed them, based on who moved calmly versus who moved abruptly, who sat quietly versus who talked constantly. The animals assessed human behavior patterns and adjusted their responses. Problem solving emerges most clearly around obstacles. A favorite grazing area becomes inaccessible due to flooding. The direct route underwater now, too deep for comfortable passage. Capybaras could swim it but prefer walking, so they detour, find the long way around. The solution isn't dramatic, no moment of sudden insight, just patient exploration until an alternative route appears. Researchers erected barriers between capybaras and food sources, low fences, widely spaced posts. The animals didn't immediately solve these puzzles. They investigated, pushed at the barriers, tested different angles. Eventually they found gaps or weak points. The process took time, sometimes hours. But once one individual found the solution, others learned by observation. Soon the entire group knew how to navigate the obstacle. Learning through watching happens constantly in capybara groups. A young animal sees an adult eating a particular plant. The next day, the young one tries that same plant. If it tastes good, the behavior repeats. If not, the plant gets remembered as undesirable. No one teaches, no one demonstrates for educational purposes. The young simply pay attention to what works for others and experiment with those options. Tool use barely appears in capybara behavior. They don't manipulate objects in complex ways, but they understand leverage. A branch blocking access to water gets pushed aside with steady pressure. Not cleverness exactly, just recognition that sustained force produces movement. They apply this understanding when needed, slowly, without fuss. The absence of rapid problem solving doesn't indicate lack of intelligence. It reflects different evolutionary pressures. Capybaras don't hunt prey requiring quick thinking. They don't face predators they can outsmart through clever tactics. Their survival depends on knowing their environment thoroughly, on remembering patterns, on making reliable decisions based on accumulated experience. Those cognitive skills serve them perfectly. Sleep patterns suggest active memory processing. Capybaras cycle through multiple rest periods daily, each session lasting anywhere from minutes to hours. During these rests, brain activity continues. We can't measure it directly in wild animals, but we see the results. Information from morning experiences influences afternoon behavior. Yesterday's discoveries become today's routine. The processing happens during those quiet rest periods, the brain organizing, consolidating, storing. Consider what information a capybara brain manages. It knows group membership, 20 individuals, each with distinct personalities and relationships. It knows territory geography, every water source, grazing patch and safe spot within 25 acres. It knows seasonal patterns, when rains arrive, when certain plants flourish, when predator activity increases. All this knowledge stored without language, without written records, just neural patterns maintained through repetition and reinforcement. Scientists studying capybara cognition face challenges. These animals don't perform well in typical intelligence tests. They won't work for food rewards when they're already well fed. They won't solve puzzles just to demonstrate capability. Getting a capybara to participate in cognitive research requires patience. The animal must want to engage, must see value in the activity, otherwise it simply rests and waits for something more interesting. This reluctance doesn't indicate stupidity. It shows different priorities. Capybaras conserve energy. They don't waste effort on pointless activities. If a researcher's puzzle offers nothing they need, why bother? That calculation itself represents intelligence, the ability to assess cost versus benefit and make rational choices. Communication reveals cognitive sophistication. Those 7 different vocalization types we discussed earlier require mental processing. The animal must assess situations, choose appropriate responses, produce the right sounds at the right moments. This isn't automatic like a fire alarm. It's conditional, context-dependent. The capybara decides when to bark, when to click, when to stay silent. Each choice reflects evaluation of circumstances. Scent-marking patterns also demonstrate planning. A dominant male doesn't randomly rub his scent gland on vegetation. He targets specific locations, territorial boundaries, high-traffic areas where other capybaras will encounter the mark. This selective marking requires spatial understanding and strategic thinking. The male must know where marks will be most effective, must remember where he marked previously, must update his scent map as circumstances change. We see cognitive flexibility in how capybaras handle novelty. A new object appears in their territory. They don't panic. They investigate cautiously, approach, sniff, touch gently. If nothing bad happens, they relax. If the object moves or makes noise, they increase distance. This graduated response shows risk assessment, the ability to gather information before committing to action. Seasonal adjustments require forward planning. When dry season approaches, capybaras shift their daily patterns. Begin spending more time near permanent water. Adjust feeding schedules to minimize travel during peak heat. These changes happen before conditions become critical. The animals anticipate based on environmental cues. Day length shortening. Temperature patterns changing. They read the signs and modify behavior proactively. The intelligence we observe in capybaras won't impress anyone expecting primate-level cognition. They don't use tools creatively. They don't solve complex mechanical puzzles. They don't demonstrate obvious self-awareness, but they excel at the cognitive tasks their lifestyle requires. They remember vast amounts of spatial information. They recognize individuals and track relationships. They learn from experience and adjust behavior accordingly. They make decisions that balance immediate needs against long-term survival. That's intelligence, just expressed differently, optimized for different challenges. Evolution doesn't create general-purpose brains good at everything. It creates specialized systems that handle specific problems efficiently. The capybara brain handles wetland navigation, social dynamics, and resource tracking with quiet competence. That's exactly what it needs to do. As night settles over the wetlands and the group moves into evening feeding, that knowledge guides every decision: which patch to graze, which animal to rest beside, when to move, when to stay, all informed by memory, all processed through neural networks that look simple from outside but contain everything these animals need to know. Intelligence enough, wisdom sufficient, perfectly adequate for lives measured in grass and water, and the slow accumulation of understanding. Chapter 6. Water shapes everything. The way capybaras move, the places they choose, the rhythms that define their year. When water is everywhere, they spread out across the wetlands. When water becomes scarce, they gather. This pattern repeats, season after season, year after year, the same ancient cycle. Imagine standing in the Venezuelan llanos during wet season. Water covers the landscape, shallow floods stretch to the horizon. Every low spot holds a pool. Every depression becomes a pond. Grass grows thick and green, emerging from the water in lush carpets. For capybaras, this is abundance. Groups of 10 or 15 animals occupy territories spread wide across the flooded savanna. Each group claims a space, not huge, perhaps 12 to 25 acres, enough room for feeding, enough water for cooling. The territories don't touch. Space exists between families. During these wet months, capybaras don't need to compete. Resources surround them. They graze in the morning, rest in the water during afternoon heat, graze again in evening. The pattern simple, the living easy. Then the rains stop, gradually at first, days between storms lengthening, then weeks. The sun beats down without interruption. Water begins disappearing. Shallow pools dry completely. Ponds shrink to muddy puddles. The grass that was so green turns brown. The wetland transforms into something else, something drier, something that requires adjustment. Capybaras don't panic. They respond slowly to these changes. As water sources dry up, groups begin moving. Not far at first, just to the next reliable pool. If that pool remains stable, they stay. The territory shifts slightly, life continues, but if that pool also begins shrinking, they move again. Always toward water, always following the resource that defines their existence. This isn't migration in the dramatic sense. No long journeys across continents, no seasonal treks of hundreds of miles, just gradual concentration around the remaining water. Groups that occupied separate territories during wet season now find themselves neighbors. The spacing between families collapses. Where 15 animals lived before, now 50 gather, then 70. Sometimes over 100 individuals clustered around a single pond that still holds water. Picture that pond in late dry season, the water's edge crowded with brown bodies, capybaras resting in the shallows, some fully submerged except for noses and eyes, others lying on the muddy banks. The groups have merged but not into chaos. Each family unit maintains its internal structure. Dominant males still lead their groups. Females still stay with their relatives. The larger gathering is just temporary, a response to scarcity, an accommodation that everyone understands will end when rains return. The young males often leave during these gatherings, not driven out exactly, more like taking an opportunity. In the crowded conditions around shrinking water, they see other groups, other territories, other options. Some walk away, heading north or south, following watercourses toward distant territories. The journey isn't easy. Walking through dry season heat, searching for water along the way. Some don't make it, but those who do find new homes, new groups to join, new chances at eventually becoming dominant. Water provides everything, not just drinking. The capybaras spend hours submerged, their bodies cooling in the liquid. Their skin lacks the oil that waterproofs other mammals. They need regular soaking to prevent drying and cracking. The water also offers protection. When danger appears, they submerge, 5 minutes, holding their breath. The threat usually passes before they need to surface. Feeding depends on water too. The best grasses grow near water. The aquatic plants they eat exist only in wet areas. During dry season, when standing water becomes rare, feeding options shrink dramatically. The grass that remains is tough, brown, low in nutrition. Capybaras eat it anyway, but they eat more, spending longer hours grazing to get the same nutrition they absorbed easily during wet season. The math of survival shifts. More effort, less reward. Think about this as spring arrives, the first storms of wet season appear. Light rain at first, then heavier. Water begins accumulating in the low places, small pools forming, grass responding with immediate green growth. The capybaras at the crowded ponds notice. Not immediately, but over days the change becomes clear. Water is returning, space is available again. The dispersal happens gradually. Family groups that spent dry season in close proximity begin spacing out, not leaving all at once, just drifting apart over weeks. A group spends a day exploring the newly flooded areas nearby. The next day they move a bit farther. Within a month, territories have re-established, the crowding dissolved, space returned, each family back in their own area or finding a new one if their previous territory has been claimed. Some territories remain stable for years, the same group occupying the same piece of wetland through multiple wet and dry cycles. These long-term holdings indicate good resources, enough food, reliable water year-round, good shade. The families that hold these premium territories defend them, not with constant battles, mostly just presence, being there, making it clear the space is occupied. Other areas change hands more frequently. The water source dries completely every dry season. The group must leave. When they return after rains, they might find the territory taken, or they might reclaim it, or they might settle nearby instead. These less stable territories host a rotation of families, each one staying a season or two before moving on. The movement patterns create a rhythm across the landscape. During wet season, capybaras spread out, territories distinct, boundaries maintained. As dry season progresses, they contract, converging on remaining water, boundaries dissolving in the necessity of survival. Then wet season returns, and the expansion begins again. Breathe in, breathe out. The landscape inhales and exhales its capybara population. Young animals learn this rhythm through experience. They're born during rainy season when resources are abundant. They grow through several wet months, learning to graze, learning to swim, learning the basics of capybara life. Then comes their first dry season, water shrinking, food declining, the world becoming harder, but they're bigger now, stronger, able to handle the lean times. The cycle teaches them. Wet means plenty, dry means conservation. Both are normal, both pass. The dependence on water creates vulnerability. If dry season extends too long, if the rains fail, if the permanent ponds dry up completely, capybaras face real trouble. They can't survive without water. Not for drinking, not for cooling, not for protection. In extreme droughts, mortality rises. The very young and very old go first. But even healthy adults struggle when water vanishes. This vulnerability ties them to wetlands. They don't occupy dry grasslands, no matter how good the grazing. They don't venture into forests without streams or ponds. They need standing water, permanent water if possible. At minimum, water that lasts through most of dry season. This requirement limits their range, defines where they can live, creates islands of capybara habitat surrounded by areas they simply can't occupy. Humans have complicated these patterns, building ponds in previously dry areas, creating year-round water where it didn't exist before. Some capybara populations have expanded into these new opportunities. Ranches with cattle ponds now host capybara families. The artificial water sources work just as well as natural ones. The capybaras don't distinguish. They just find the water and stay near it. Other human activities have opposite effects, draining wetlands, diverting rivers, altering the seasonal flood patterns that capybaras depend on. These changes can eliminate territories, force groups into smaller areas, increase crowding beyond what the resources can support. The capybaras adapt where they can, but there are limits to adaptation. The seasonal rhythm continues regardless. Wet season, dry season, expansion, contraction. Capybaras following the water, always the water. It defines where they go, where they can live, how they organize their world. From birth to death, every capybara moves to water's rhythm. The dance is simple, the pattern unchanging. Season after season, generation after generation, the water decides, the capybaras respond, and life continues in its slow, patient cycle across the wetlands of South America. Chapter 7. The sun climbs, heat builds. By midday, the air shimmers above the water. Most animals retreat, find shade, stay still, wait for evening. Capybaras do the same, but their method is different, simpler. They sink into water and let it hold them. Watch a capybara at noon. The body submerged, only the top of the head visible. Eyes, ears, nostrils, everything else underwater. The animal barely moves, just floats there. The water does the work, pulling heat from the body, keeping everything cool. No effort required, just presence in the right place. This is thermal regulation at its most basic. Heat enters the body from sunlight, from the warm air, from the ground beneath. The body temperature rises, but water temperature stays lower, constant. When the capybara enters water, heat flows from body to liquid. Simple physics, simple solution. The animal cools without struggle. Think about standing outside on a hot afternoon. The sun beating down, sweat forming, your body working to stay cool. Now imagine stepping into a pool, that immediate relief, the way heat just drains away. Capybaras live at that relief. They have it available whenever needed, just a few steps to the water's edge, then in, then cool. Their skin helps this process. Thin fur, Not dense like a beaver's coat, not oily like an otter's pelt. Just coarse hair growing in sparse clumps. Water reaches the skin easily, touches it directly. The heat exchange happens fast, efficient, no thick fur layer blocking the transfer. The skin itself has folds, wrinkles, extra surface area, more contact points for water to touch, more opportunities for heat to move from body to liquid. Evolution designed this, not consciously, just through generations of animals with more wrinkled skin cooling better, living longer, reproducing more, the trait persisting. Capybara bodies are large, over 100 pounds of mass. Big bodies generate heat, metabolism runs constantly, muscles create warmth, just existing. In cool climates, this internal heat production helps. But in tropical wetlands where air temperature reaches 90 or 100 degrees, that internal heat becomes a burden. Small animals handle this better. They have more surface area relative to their mass. Heat escapes easily. But capybaras, their bulk holds heat, traps it inside. Without water, they would overheat. The body temperature would rise, systems would fail, but water is always there, always available, always offering relief. The daily pattern follows temperature. Cool mornings bring activity, grazing, moving, social interaction. Then the sun rises higher, heat increases. Activity slows. By late morning, capybaras start moving toward water, not rushing, just gradually shifting location, getting closer to the pools and streams that will shelter them through midday heat. Around noon, most of the group is in water. Some fully submerged, others standing in shallows with water reaching their bellies. A few lying on muddy banks, half in and half out, each animal finding the level of cooling it needs. Young ones, being smaller, can tolerate more heat. They play in shallow water, while adults sink deeper. The stillness during these hours is remarkable. 20 capybaras in one pool, all resting, barely moving, eyes half closed, breathing slow. The only sound is water lapping gently against bodies, an occasional ripple when someone shifts position, otherwise perfect calm, perfect stillness, the heat radiating down from above, the water absorbing it below. This isn't sleep. The animals remain aware. An unusual sound brings heads up, eyes opening, attention focusing, but if nothing threatening appears, they settle back down, return to that floating rest, that half-conscious state where the body cools and time passes slowly. Mud offers additional protection. When capybaras emerge from water, they sometimes roll in mud, coat their bodies with wet earth. The mud dries slowly, creating a barrier between skin and sun, like sunscreen, like insulation. The animal can stay on land longer without overheating because the mud layer reflects some sunlight and slows heat absorption. You can see this most clearly in the dry season when water levels drop and pools become shallow and muddy. Capybaras covered in dried mud, brown coating over brown fur. The mud cracks as they move, flakes off, gets replaced by new mud from the next swim, a continuous cycle of protection. The sparse fur serves another purpose. When capybaras leave the water, they dry quickly. The thin, coarse hair holds little water, doesn't create a cold, wet layer that would make them uncomfortable. Within minutes of climbing onto shore, the fur is mostly dry, the skin still slightly damp, but not enough to cause chill, just enough to provide a little evaporative cooling before the next heat exposure. Their behavior adjusts to temperature automatically. On cooler days, they spend less time in water, more time on land, more grazing, more movement. On hotter days, water time increases, land time decreases. The animals read their own comfort level and respond. No complex decision-making, just awareness of being too warm and moving toward coolness. Group dynamics support this. When one animal enters water, others often follow, not immediately, but gradually. The sight of a group member cooling triggers recognition in others that cooling might feel good. Within 30 minutes, a few scattered individuals become a cluster of floating bodies, all seeking the same relief. Young capybaras learn this pattern through observation. They're born during wet season when temperatures are moderate, but they grow through their first dry season. That first experience of real heat, watching adults move to water during hot hours, following them, discovering the relief water provides, the lesson learned through direct experience, through feeling the difference between hot air and cool water. Body temperature in capybaras averages around 97 degrees Fahrenheit, close to human body temperature. When air temperature reaches 100 degrees, there's no temperature gradient, no natural cooling. Heat flows from environment into body rather than body into environment. This is when water becomes essential, not just helpful, essential. The animal cannot maintain safe body temperature without it. Research using temperature sensors has shown this directly. Capybaras fitted with internal monitors. Their body temperature tracked throughout the day, the data clear. When animals stay near water, body temperature remains stable. When they move away from water, temperature rises. The farther from water, the higher the temperature climbs. When they return to water, temperature drops back to normal levels. The correlation perfect. Distance from water equals temperature change. This dependence explains why capybaras never venture far from water sources, why their territories always include reliable pools or streams, why they abandoned otherwise suitable grazing areas if water disappears. The resource isn't optional, it's fundamental, as necessary as food, as critical as air. Without water for cooling, survival becomes impossible in their climate. The head position while swimming shows additional adaptation. Eyes, ears, and nostrils all located on top of the head. When the animal floats, these parts stay above water. Everything else submerged. The capybara can see, hear, breathe, all while most of its body remains underwater and cooling. This design allows extended water time, hours if needed. The animal never forced to choose between staying cool and remaining aware of surroundings. Some capybaras sleep in water. Truly sleep. Not just rest with eyes closed. Deep sleep while floating. The body buoyant enough to stay at the surface. The nostrils above the waterline, breathing automatic. This ability means they can spend entire afternoon in water without ever needing to emerge. Perfect adaptation to tropical heat. As afternoon wanes and temperature drops, activity increases again. Capybaras begin emerging, shaking off water, moving toward feeding areas, the evening grazing session approaching. But even during this active period, they stay close to water. Quick returns to the pool if exertion causes overheating. A brief swim, then back to feeding. The water always there, always available, always offering its cooling embrace. Night brings real relief. Temperature dropping, humidity rising. Capybaras can move freely now, graze for extended periods, cover ground. The heat burden lifted, the water still present if needed, but needed less. The cool darkness allowing behaviors that daytime heat prevents. This thermal relationship defines capybara life as much as diet or social structure. Every decision filtered through temperature awareness, every movement considering heat load, the animals living in constant negotiation with their tropical environment. Water, the tool that makes negotiation possible, the resource that allows life in heat that would overwhelm them otherwise. Chapter 8. The city grows, buildings rise, roads spread, wetlands disappear beneath concrete. Most animals leave. They move away from noise and lights and people, but some capybaras stay. They find the parks, the golf courses, the retention ponds. They settle into these small green spaces and make them home. No one planned for this. The cities weren't designed with capybaras in mind, but the animals found what they needed anyway. Grass in the parks, water in decorative ponds, shade under planted trees, everything necessary for survival, just arranged differently than in wild wetlands. The first sightings surprised people. A capybara grazing on a manicured lawn. Another swimming in a fountain meant for ornament, not wildlife. These encounters seemed strange, out of place. A wetland animal in the middle of a city. But capybaras kept appearing. One turned into two. Two became a family. The family grew. Within a few years, entire groups lived permanently in urban parks, not visiting, not passing through, living there, raising young there, establishing territories that included sidewalks and parking lots alongside grass and water. The adaptation happened quietly, no dramatic changes in behavior, just capybaras being capybaras in a new setting. They grazed the same way, rested in water the same way, formed groups with the same social structure. The location changed, the lifestyle remained constant. City parks often have better conditions than degraded wild areas. Regular watering keeps grass green. Maintenance removes dead vegetation. Water sources stay clean and filled. Predators don't exist. No jaguars roaming city streets, no caimans in ornamental lakes. The dangerous elements of wildlife removed while the resources stayed abundant. This created an interesting situation. Capybaras living safer, more comfortable lives in cities than their wild relatives enjoyed in disturbed natural areas. Urban populations growing while rural ones declined from habitat loss. The cities becoming refugees by accident. People noticed them gradually, morning joggers seeing capybaras on the path, families finding them grazing near playgrounds. The animals became part of the landscape, part of the expected scenery. Some parks became known for their capybara residents. Visitors came specifically to see them. The capybaras showed little fear. They'd rest 20 feet from walking paths, keep grazing when people passed nearby. This calmness made them popular, easy to observe, safe to be near. Children could watch them from appropriate distances. Photographers captured them in natural poses without complex setups. But the adaptation wasn't perfect. Roads created problems. Capybaras crossing streets to reach different parts of their territories. Cars hitting them at night. The animals couldn't learn traffic patterns fast enough. They moved at their own pace, crossing when they needed to cross, unaware of vehicle danger. Some gardens suffered. Capybaras don't distinguish between wild grass and expensive lawns. They eat both equally. Flower beds made convenient feeding spots. Rose bushes got damaged. Property owners complained. The peaceful coexistence showed limits. Cities responded differently. Some places tried removal, capturing capybaras and relocating them to rural areas. This rarely worked. The animals found their way back, or new capybaras moved into the vacated territories. The urban niche remained attractive, other individuals always ready to fill it. Other cities accepted the situation, created designated capybara zones, left certain park areas unmowed, planted grass varieties the animals preferred, built safe water crossings, adapted the urban environment to accommodate the new residents rather than trying to remove them. The capybaras adjusted their schedules around human activity. In heavily visited parks, they became more nocturnal, feeding and moving primarily at night when people went home, resting during day in thick vegetation away from trails. The flexibility that served them in wild habitats worked equally well in cities. Group sizes in urban areas often exceeded wild populations, 60 or 70 animals gathering in a single park. The abundant resources and lack of predators allowing higher densities. These large groups functioned smoothly. The social structure scaled up without breaking down. Dominance hierarchies still worked. Territory still held meaning even when boundaries included parking lots instead of swamps. Young capybaras born in cities knew only urban life. They learned to navigate human environments from birth. To them, the sound of traffic was normal, the sight of buildings unremarkable. They grew up adapted to city living in ways their parents had to learn through trial. This generational adjustment suggests permanence. Urban capybara populations aren't temporary. They're established, reproducing, passing knowledge to offspring, creating a distinct urban ecotype of capybara that may eventually differ from wild populations in subtle ways. The relationship benefits both sides in unexpected ways. Capybaras help maintain park ecosystems. Their grazing keeps certain plants in check. Their presence attracts other species that find the parks more hospitable, with large herbivores present. The ecosystem becomes slightly more complete with them there. For people, seeing wildlife in cities provides connection to nature without leaving urban areas. Children growing up near capybara populations develop familiarity with wildlife, learn to coexist, understand that humans and animals can share space peacefully when both adapt slightly. The long-term pattern remains unclear. Will urban capybara populations continue growing? Will cities develop better management strategies? Will the animals spread to more urban areas as they learn the pattern works? These questions don't have answers yet. What's certain is the adaptation already happened. Capybaras moved into cities, found niches, established populations. They're urban animals now in addition to being wetland animals, the largest rodent in the world living alongside millions of people, grazing in parks where children play, swimming in ponds surrounded by office buildings, the wetland creature becoming a city dweller without changing what it fundamentally is. The parks stay green, the ponds stay filled, the grass keeps growing, and the capybaras keep living there, quietly, peacefully, making urban spaces work for them, making their presence work for cities, a slow accommodation between species, an unplanned partnership that somehow functions despite never being designed. Just animals and people sharing space because both found ways to make it possible. Chapter 9. Water holds a jaguar, not swimming, just standing in the shallows. 30 feet away, a capybara floats, eyes watching, body still. The jaguar drinks, the capybara waits. Neither moves toward the other. Minutes pass, the jaguar finishes drinking, turns, walks back into forest. The capybara continues floating, Just another afternoon at the water's edge. This scene repeats across South America. Not every day, not with drama, just occasionally. Predator and prey sharing the same water source, both needing to drink, both accepting the other's presence. The arrangement working because neither forces confrontation. Capybaras live surrounded by animals that hunt them, jaguars in the forest, caimans in deeper water, anacondas along muddy banks. These aren't distant threats, they're neighbors, residents of the same wetlands, using the same resources, crossing paths regularly. Yet capybara populations thrive. The predators exist, the hunting happens, but the pressure never eliminates the prey. Some balance maintains itself. The system stays stable. Predators take some capybaras. Most capybaras survive. Life continues in steady rhythm. The key is understanding when danger is real. A jaguar drinking isn't hunting. Its body language shows disinterest. Head down, movement casual, attention on water, not prey. Capybaras read these signals. They know the difference between a thirsty jaguar and a hunting one. They stay calm during the former, flee only from the latter. This discernment develops through experience. Young capybaras stay close to adults, watch their responses, learn what requires action and what doesn't. An older animal remaining calm teaches the young that this particular situation is safe. The knowledge passes down without explicit teaching. Caimans present similar patterns. These reptiles hunt capybaras successfully, regularly. Yet capybaras and caimans share basking spots, rest on the same mudbanks, sometimes within a few body lengths of each other. The capybaras monitor the caimans, watch for movement that suggests hunting intention. Absent that, they coexist peacefully. Think about living near something that might harm you, the constant awareness required, the energy spent monitoring. For capybaras, this awareness becomes background, always present but not consuming. They graze while tracking predator locations. They rest while maintaining light vigilance. The monitoring happens automatically, requiring little conscious effort. Group living makes this easier. 20 capybaras means 20 sets of eyes, someone always watching while others feed or rest. The collective awareness far exceeds what any individual could maintain. A predator can't approach unnoticed. Too many observers, too many angles covered. The warning system operates simply. One capybara sees danger, makes an alarm bark. Everyone responds. The group moves toward water or forms defensive positions. No discussion, no verification. Trust in the warners. Judgment is automatic. Better to react to false alarms than ignore real threats. Most alarms turn out unnecessary. The perceived threat wasn't actually hunting, but the cost of precaution is low. A brief interruption, some wasted movement. Everyone settles back down within minutes. The system works because false alarms don't create lasting disruption. Predators succeed through patience and timing. A jaguar waits near a trail capybaras use regularly. Hours of stillness. Then the moment comes, a capybara passes close enough. The attack is quick, successful or failed within seconds, then over. The jaguar either has prey or doesn't. Either way, it moves on. Capybaras return to the same trail days later. The attack doesn't make the location permanently dangerous. Predators don't camp at one spot indefinitely. They hunt, then move to new areas. The capybaras understand this. They avoid places where attacks just happened, but they return after enough time passes. This calculated risk-taking allows access to good resources, the best grazing, the clearest water. These places attract predators precisely because they attract prey. Avoiding them entirely would mean surrendering the best habitat. Instead, capybaras use heightened caution in high-risk areas, quick visits, maximum alertness, in and out efficiently. Nighttime changes the equation. Predators hunt better in darkness. Capybaras see worse. The advantage shifts. So capybara activity decreases at night, not eliminated, just reduced. Essential movements only, feeding in the safest areas, staying close to water for quick escape. The rhythm adjusting to match risk levels. Anacondas hunt differently. They wait in ambush, submerged in murky water, invisible. A capybara wading into the wrong spot gets grabbed. No warning, no chance to flee. These attacks succeed through complete surprise. The capybara dies before understanding what happened. But anacondas are limited by location. They need specific conditions: murky water, underwater cover, places to hide their bulk. Capybaras learn which water types hold this danger. They avoid thick vegetation in water, prefer clear pools where visibility extends in all directions. Choose openness over cover when entering water. The predator-prey relationship maintains balance through numbers. Predators need to eat regularly. They take capybaras. But capybaras reproduce quickly. Each female can produce several young per year. The population absorbs the losses, replaces the taken individuals, continues growing despite ongoing predation. This works because predators have limits too. A jaguar's territory covers large areas. One jaguar doesn't spend all its time hunting capybaras in one location. It moves, hunts different prey, visits different parts of its range. The pressure on any single capybara group stays manageable. Dry season concentrates everyone. Multiple capybara groups around one water source. Predators visit frequently. Knowing prey will be there, but even then most capybaras survive most days. The predators take a few, the majority continue living. The losses spread across the gathered population rather than eliminating any one group. Young capybaras face highest risk. Smaller, less experienced, slower to react. Predators target them preferentially, but capybaras protect young collectively. Adults position themselves between offspring and danger, form barriers with their bodies, the group structure providing some shield even against much larger predators. Harpy eagles hunt from above. Silent approach, sudden strike, they take young capybaras from groups. The attack comes so fast that defense is impossible. The eagle hits, grabs, and rises before anyone reacts. These attacks succeed through speed and surprise rather than strength. Capybaras can't prevent eagle attacks, but they reduce exposure. Young stay in the center of groups when possible. Adults around the perimeter. Time in open areas gets minimized. The group moves between cover points rather than grazing in the open indefinitely. Small adjustments that lower risk without eliminating it. The ecosystem requires both predator and prey. Jaguars need capybaras for food. Capybaras need jaguars to maintain population health. The predators take weak or sick individuals preferentially, removing animals that would suffer and die anyway, keeping the prey population vigorous. This relationship evolved over millions of years, both species shaped by the interaction. Capybaras developing better awareness, better group coordination, better escape responses. Predators developing better stalking, better timing, better killing efficiency. An arms race where neither side ever wins completely. Just constant adaptation and counter-adaptation. The peace we observe isn't friendship, it's understanding. Both species knowing their roles. Predators hunt, Prey evades. Sometimes the predator succeeds. Usually the prey escapes, the pattern continuing endlessly. Neither personal nor emotional, just the mechanics of survival playing out in slow motion across the wetlands. The capybara, floating near the drinking jaguar, understands this. It's not being brave, not trusting, just reading the situation accurately. The jaguar isn't hunting right now. When it does hunt, the capybara will flee. But that moment hasn't arrived, so both animals share the water, maintaining careful distance, respecting the space between predator and prey. The arrangement working because both accept what they are to each other. No pretense, no illusion, just accurate assessment and appropriate response. The foundation of coexistence in a world where danger is real but not constant, where threat exists but doesn't dominate every moment, where predator and prey drink from the same water and both walk away. The balance holding, the system functioning, life continuing in its patient, inevitable way. Chapter 10. Morning arrives slowly. The female capybara rests in shallow water. Her breathing changes slightly. No urgency, no distress, just the quiet beginning of birth. Within an hour, 4 pups emerge, wet, small, already complete. The newborns weigh roughly 3 pounds each, about the size of a loaf of bread, but they're not helpless. Their eyes open immediately. Fur covers their bodies. Teeth fill their small mouths. They stand within minutes, wobbly at first, then steadier. Walking comes within the first hour. This is how capybaras enter the world, ready. The mother doesn't isolate herself. Birth happens right there among the group. Other females gather nearby, watching, waiting. As soon as the pups steady themselves, these other females approach. They sniff the newborns, touch them gently with noses, begin their involvement immediately. This isn't just the mother's responsibility, it's the group's. Within hours, the pups nurse. They approach any female, not just their mother, push their small heads against her belly. The female stands if she has milk, allows them to drink, lies down if she doesn't. The pups move on, try another female. This pattern continues throughout their early weeks. Any lactating female feeds any hungry pup. No one refuses. No one shows preference for their own offspring. Think about this arrangement. A pup born to one mother drinks milk from 3 or 4 different females during its first months. It never learns to distinguish its biological mother from the others. Doesn't need to. All the adults provide care equally. The communal nursing ensures every pup gets fed regardless of individual circumstances. If one mother produces less milk, it doesn't matter. Other females compensate. If a mother dies, the pups continue nursing from the remaining females. They never starve due to individual loss. The system has redundancy built in, multiple sources of everything pups need: food, protection, guidance, warmth. The pups stay close to adults constantly during their first weeks. They huddle against warm bodies during rest periods, follow the group when it moves, learn where to go simply by going there. No teaching required, just presence and observation. The adults graze, the pups watch. Soon the pups nibble grass too, mimicking what they see. This learning happens gradually. A week-old pup still drinks mostly milk, but samples vegetation. 2-week-old pups eat grass regularly while continuing to nurse. By 4 weeks, solid food makes up half their diet. By 16 weeks, they're fully weaned. The transition smooth and natural, no forced schedule. just gradual shift as pups grow and become capable. Water presents the first real challenge. Pups can swim from birth. Their bodies naturally buoyant, but they lack stamina. Deep water tires them quickly, so they stay in shallows during early weeks, wading rather than swimming. The adults position themselves between pups and deeper water, creating a living barrier. Young pups sometimes climb onto adult backs, riding while the adult swims. This isn't play, it's practical transportation. The pup conserves energy, stays safe from underwater threats. The adult barely notices the extra weight, just continues swimming with a passenger balanced on its back. Other group members accept this. Sometimes multiple pups share one adult. 3 or 4 small bodies piled on a swimming platform. The dominant male plays a particular role. He doesn't nurse pups or carry them, but he maintains territory, patrols boundaries, warns of dangers. His presence creates the secure space where pups can grow safely. When threats appear, he positions himself between danger and the group, the females and pups behind him. This protective positioning happens automatically. No discussion, no decision, just instinctive arrangement. Subordinate males help too. They're often related to the pups, brothers or cousins. They don't provide direct care, but they contribute to group vigilance. More eyes watching, more ears listening. The pups benefit from this collective awareness even though they don't understand it yet. As pups grow, they begin to explore, wander slightly away from the tight cluster, test their independence. The adults let this happen but maintain awareness. If a pup strays too far, an adult moves closer, gently herding it back toward the group. No force, no alarm, just steady, patient guidance that keeps young ones within safe range. The pups play, chasing each other in shallow water, wrestling on muddy banks. This play looks purposeless but serves development. They learn coordination, test their growing strength, practice social interactions. The adults tolerate this activity, step around playing pups, sometimes participate briefly before returning to adult concerns. Nighttime brings everyone together. The group rests in a dense cluster, pups buried among adult bodies, warmth shared, safety in numbers. If danger approaches in darkness, the entire group responds together. Adults rising, pups following. Movement to water coordinated and swift despite low visibility. Even very young pups keep up, their survival depending on staying with the group. This communal care extends beyond immediate family. A group might contain 15 adults and 20 pups, from multiple litters born weeks apart. All the pups receive care from all the adults. Age differences don't matter. Biological relationships don't matter. If a pup needs something, the nearest capable adult provides it. Simple system, effective system. The females spend enormous amounts of time on childcare, not just their own offspring. All the group's young. They stand patiently while pups nurse. They position their bodies to shelter pups from sun or wind. They stay alert during pups' rest periods. This investment benefits everyone. Strong, healthy young ensure the group's future. Every adult has interest in every pup's survival. As pups reach 3 or 4 months, they start eating the specialized morning cecotropes, the soft pellets produced through the unique digestive process. They learn this behavior by watching adults, seeing the behavior, trying it themselves. The adults don't teach actively, just perform the behavior naturally. The pups observe and imitate. Within weeks, morning coprophagy becomes part of their routine too. The pups grow steadily. 3 pounds at birth becomes 20 pounds by 3 months, 40 pounds by 6 months. The growth requires constant nutrition, endless grazing. The young ones eat almost continuously during daylight hours, their small stomachs processing grass in shifts. Fill, empty, fill again, the fuel for rapid development. Around 1 year, young males begin showing restlessness. They wander to the edge of group territory, test boundaries. Sometimes they leave for hours before returning. This is the beginning of dispersal, the natural process where young males eventually leave their birth group, seeking new territories, new groups to join. The timing varies, but usually happens between 12 and 18 months. Young females typically stay with their birth group. They become part of the communal care system, start nursing the next generation of pups. Their presence increases the group's capacity to raise young successfully. More females means more milk, more protection, more collective care. The group benefits from retaining daughters while sons move on to prevent inbreeding. The males who leave face challenges: finding a new group, being accepted, establishing position in unfamiliar social hierarchy. Some don't succeed, they become solitary for periods, living alone, vulnerable, stressed. Most eventually find acceptance somewhere. But the transition period is difficult, the hardest phase of a capybara's life. Those who stay, whether female or eventually dominant males, participate in raising countless pups over their lifetime. A female might help nurse and protect over 100 pups during her reproductive years. Most of them not her biological offspring, but all of them benefiting from her care, all of them part of her contribution to the group's continuation. The system works because everyone participates, no individuals shirking responsibility, no adults refusing to help. The communal approach means that even if some adults die or leave, enough caregivers remain. The pups never lack attention, never lack resources. The redundancy built into the social structure provides resilience against individual loss. Seasons bring variation. During wet season abundance, pups grow faster, more food available, better body condition. Dry season births face harder circumstances. Less nutrition, slower growth, but the communal care system buffers this. Pups share whatever resources exist, the burden distributed across all adults rather than falling heavily on individual mothers. The peaceful nature of this cooperation reflects broader capybara temperament. These animals simply don't compete fiercely over most resources. Females don't fight over nursing rights. Adults don't exclude pups from food. The group operates on principles of sharing and collective benefit. This makes raising young easier, less stressful, more successful. Watch a group with multiple generations, the oldest females experienced in childcare, middle-aged adults in their reproductive prime, young adults just learning their roles, and pups of various ages, all moving together, all contributing what they can, all benefiting from what others provide, the family operating as a functional whole, each member connected to all others through bonds of cooperation and shared purpose. The pups grow in this environment of constant support. They never face the world alone, never struggle without help. From birth to maturity, the group surrounds them, feeds them, protects them, teaches them through example, ensures their survival through collective effort, generation after generation, the pattern repeating, the bonds holding, the family continuing in its quiet, patient way across the wetlands where time moves slowly and life unfolds in gentle rhythms of care and growth. The water holds them, bodies floating, barely moving. The afternoon stretches long and quiet. This is how capybaras spend so much of their time, just being, just existing in the space between water and air. Their bodies were made for this, every part designed for the wetland life they lead, the webbed feet that push through water so easily, the eyes placed high on the head, the nostrils that stay above the surface while everything else sinks below. Small adaptations that together make a life possible. Watch them breathe, so slow, so steady. The rhythm never changes, in, out, in, out. No urgency, no variation, just the patient continuation of breath, the sound barely audible, a soft exhale, a gentle intake, the air moving through them like water moves around them, natural, effortless, eternal. The fur dries quickly when they emerge, coarse hairs that shed water instead of holding it. Within minutes of leaving the pool, they're dry enough to rest comfortably on land, but they rarely stay long. The water calls them back, always back, to the coolness, the weightlessness, the quiet floating that seems to be their preferred state. Their size makes them gentle, too large to move quickly without effort. So they don't. They move slowly through their days, conserving energy, saving strength for when it's truly needed. Most hours require nothing but presence, just being there, being alive, being capybara. The sun moves across the sky. Light changes, shadows lengthen. The capybaras notice but don't react. Time passes differently for them, measured in seasons rather than hours, in the slow turning of wet to dry and back again, in the patient cycles that repeat year after year. They rest together, bodies touching, warmth shared without thought, comfort found in proximity. The group a single entity, breathing together, existing together. No individual standing apart, all of them connected through the simple fact of being there, being present, being together. Evening will come, they will graze, they will move to new resting spots. They will continue the patterns that have sustained them forever. But for now, in this moment, there is only stillness, only the quiet floating, only the gentle rise and fall of breath. The wetlands hold them the way water holds them, completely, gently, without question or concern. The capybaras accept this holding, sink into it. Let it support them through another afternoon, another evening, another night. The rhythm continuing, the pattern holding, the peace remaining. Tomorrow will be the same, and the day after, and all the days that follow. The same grass, the same water, the same quiet hours of floating and resting and simply being alive. This is what they are. This is what they do, and it is enough, more than enough. It is everything they need. The water ripples slightly, a breeze perhaps, or a fish moving below. The capybaras remain still, eyes half closed, bodies relaxed, existing in that perfect state between waking and sleep, aware but not alert, present but not active, just there, just being, just floating in the eternal afternoon of their wetland home. And so they continue, generation after generation, the same as they have always been, living their slow, patient lives, asking nothing from the world except water and grass and the company of their kind, finding everything they need in the simple rhythm of days that pass like water flowing, gentle, steady, forever moving forward while somehow staying exactly the same. The light fades slowly. Dusk approaches, the wetland transitions from day to night, and through it all, the capybaras remain, floating, resting, breathing, existing in perfect harmony with everything around them. This is their world. This is their life. And in its simplicity lies everything worth knowing, everything worth being, everything that matters in the slow, patient unfolding of days beneath the South American sky. Sleep comes easily for them. It always has. One moment awake, the next drifting. No struggle between states, just gentle sliding from consciousness into dreams and back again. The boundary so soft it barely exists, like the boundary between water and air, like the boundary between day and night. Everything flowing, everything connected, everything one. And in that oneness, in that floating, peaceful state, the capybaras rest, content, safe, together. The perfect embodiment of life lived without resistance. Life accepted exactly as it comes, life flowing like the water that holds them, forever gentle, forever patient, forever at peace.